Coming up on Locked On Leafs, it was a disappointing night at Scotiabank Arena as the Toronto Maple Leafs lost 4-3 to the Buffalo Sabres. I'll break down what went wrong in the game. This is the Locked On Leafs podcast. Is your team every day.
You're Locked On Maple Leafs, your daily podcast on the Toronto Maple Leafs, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello and welcome to the Locked On Leafs podcast, your daily fix for all things Leafs. I'm your host, David Morassutti from Sportsnet, flying solo for today. As always, Locked On Leafs is a daily Maple Leaf centric podcast, so be sure to subscribe for free wherever you get your podcasts from, and you can catch us up on YouTube, Locked On Leafs. It's your team every day. This podcast is also brought to you by the FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook of Locked On. Make every moment more. Visit FanDuel.com/LockedOn today to get started. Boy, oh boy, I hope you didn't put any money on the Leafs last night, everybody, because they came out great in this game against the Buffalo Sabres. I'll say that. I was in attendance for this game. I was watching it from way up high in Scotiabank Arena, and like the Leafs had a really good start to this game. They were controlling play. I think the Sabres had like 4 shots on goal in the first period. They weren't doing much. And then obviously the Leafs would build up a 2-0 lead. Yeah, things were kind of just like moseying along. It wasn't, the most thrilling games at first. And then all of a sudden, it just came out of nowhere. The Leafs just took their foot off the gas. The Sabres were really pushing. I will give the Sabres credit. They were pushing the tempo in that second period. They were pushing the pace. They were desperate, right? They played like a desperate team after they were down 2-0, as you would expect a team that is trailing to play. And then obviously they score 4 unanswered goals to take a 4-2 lead. The Toronto Maple Leafs did try a late comeback. William Nylander scored a beautiful, beautiful goal to make it 4-3, and then they just could not get that equalizing goal in the final minute there. So, yeah, all in all, it was a game that you could tell that the Leafs just didn't have their best effort. It's become a little all too common for this team that when they play a team below them, you for the most part they've had issues playing to that level when other teams decide we're just going to try to outwork them, and that's what happened in this game. So it was not a great night for the team, defensively, especially in their own end. There was a lot of issues with defensive zone coverage, especially in front of the net. How many rebounds, how many extra chances the Sabres got. Matt Murray I thought he played actually quite well in this game. I thought he gave the Leafs chances to remain in the game when the Sabres were basically putting on the pressure, making how many stops on Tage Thompson alone in this game. The padded one-timer that he's been come to known to do this season, breakaway chances. I had no issues really with Matt Murray's game. Sure, would you like him to make an extra save or two on some of the goals? Yeah, definitely. But when guys have clean open chances in high danger areas, they're most likely going to score. That's where you score the goals. I felt like the Leafs, they were doing some of that in this game. They were getting to those high danger chances, but they weren't doing it enough to really, to earn the result. I felt like the team that had the better, basically more urgency, was the one that won. Like, just to give you an idea of how bad it was for the Leafs in that second period, just the second period alone. If you go on to natural stat trick, the Sabres outchanced the Leafs, and these are just regular chances on goal, blocked and unblocked, 27-5 in the second period. 27-5 in that second period. The Leafs were outshot at 5-on-5, 13-3 at all strengths. The Sabres outshot the Leafs 17-3. I don't know many teams are going to be able to win when they get outshot 17-3 in a period. That was pretty bad. Like, the Leafs were like, just to give you an idea how good I thought the Leafs start was, they outshot the Sabres 12-3 in that first period. The Sabres then just flipped the script on them. Of course, the third period it was a little more of back and forth affair. I thought the Leafs, near the end of that period came alive because they obviously needed to and they tried to, but the Sabres outchanced the Leafs in those high danger areas 11-7 at 5-on-5. And then for the game itself, I'm just going to pull that up here. For the game itself, the Sabres outchanced the Leafs by double, 14-7 in high danger chances. You're not going to win many games when the other team is getting to those high danger areas more than you are. Simple as that. Like, there's no other way to really say it. That's what went wrong for the Leafs in this game. They could not stop the Sabres from getting to those high danger areas and getting chances in the high dangerous areas. So definitely something that the Leafs are going to have to work on, because it was that's the type of play right there that's going to not win you many games in the playoffs. And yeah, if you looked at the heat maps from this game, I can even pull it up to our fine folks here on YouTube, just to get you an idea of how the chances in this game were. Like, look at where all the Sabres. I'm gonna go with all the chances. Look at where the heat map show where majority of the Sabres chances on net came from. So the blue heat map here, if you're watching on YouTube, if you're listening, all four goals were scored right in front of the net. Like, there was nothing from the perimeter, nothing from the middle of the zone, off to the side. These were all scored in front of the net. It was clear the Sabres had a game plan to beat the Leafs, and they did it to a T. They did it to a T. I'll give them credit for that. But at the same time, that's something the Leafs should be doing a better job at. Against teams like this are going to realize this is how you beat the Leafs. You outwork them in front of the net, and you get these extra chances, because the Leafs were brutal at it. I'm just no other way to put it. So not a great night for the defense. I thought just, there wasn't really a standout defenseman I thought that played well in this game, really, just based on what I saw from this game, especially defensively. Yeah, Jake McCabe wasn't I think some people were wondering, oh, is Jake McCabe broken? I didn't think so. I didn't think he was terrible in this game. I mean, he obviously was on the ice for fewer chances against. I was actually going to look that up and see who allowed the most chances in those high danger areas. Unfortunately, it was Mark Giordano and Timothy Liljegren. They were the ones, and just watching that game, you saw 55 and 37 on the ice for most of those goals in those high danger areas. Timothy Liljegren struggled in front of the net there. So did Morgan Rielly. No surprise there. Morgan Rielly has had his struggles. He was on the ice for 5 high danger chances against. Liljegren and Giordano. Giordano had 7. Liljegren had 6 at all strengths. This is not just at 5-on-5. I'm sure that at 5-on-5 it might have been different, because obviously with the so Liljegren was on the ice for 6 high danger chances against at 5-on-5. So he was one of the culprits in front of his own net, and that's something right there. We talked about having Timothy Liljegren in the lineup. If you're going to be in the lineup, you got to be better in front of your own net, in front of your own goal. I feel like that's something that Sheldon Keefe is going to be pushing for Timothy Liljegren to get better at. Otherwise, he's not going to be in the lineup. So when you ask why is Timothy Liljegren not in the lineup, that's going to be one of the cases there, because you cannot, as a defenseman, be getting caught getting outworked in front of your own net. Just to give you an idea, everybody, like someone say, oh, why was Justin Hall in this game? Or Justin Hall, why is Sheldon Keefe keep playing him? Well, if you look, he was only on the ice for 2 high danger chances against. Now, Justin Hall also played at 5-on-5. Him and Liljegren did play roughly the same amount. In this game, it may have skewed a little more of Liljegren playing more in the defensive zone, and that's probably because with Giordano, and that probably explains a little bit of why he was on the ice for more high danger chances against. But yeah, I'm not exonerating. I'm not going to point fingers at one specific player. I feel like just as a whole, the team didn't do a good job. I look at one of the Alex Tuck goals. I mean, a beautiful setup on one of them. It was a back, kind of a spin around pass, but Marner didn't really do a good job. Defending Alex Tuck, things like that. The forwards have to do a better job to support the defensemen there in those high danger areas as well. You can't just be leaving guys alone. Tuck, both chances he had, he was wide open. He didn't really have to do much either to get open. So something that the Leafs are going to definitely have to work on going forward. All right, I'm gonna give my good, bad, and the ugly from this game. Point out some brutal moments from the games and whether there was anything that I thought worked out well for this team. But before I do that, let me talk to you about one of today's show sponsor, and it's actually today's title sponsor. It is the FanDuel Sports Book. It is the official sports book of the NBA. And with the NBA season halfway through, now is the perfect time to download FanDuel's America's #1 sports book because new customers get a no sweat first bet up to $1,000. That's bonus bets back if your first bet doesn't win. Just download the FanDuel Sportsbook app. It's safe, secure, and super easy to use. Then you can bet on everything from the money line to point scores and threes rain. Of course, if you're an NHL fan, you can go and you can do first goal score, anytime goal score, how many shots the team's going to get on that, how many goals you think that they're going to win by. You can bet on the spread, you can bet on the line, all those things you can do for the NHL as well. Plus, FanDuel even lets you combine your bets for a chance at bigger payouts with the same game parlay. So don't miss out on your chance to get a no sweat first bet and get up to $1,000 in bonus bets when you go to fanduel.com/lockedon. That's fanduel.com/lockedon to learn more. Make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of the NBA and the Locked On Podcast Network. Welcome back to the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's your team every day. I'm David Morassutti, flying solo for this one. And the good, bad, and the ugly. Let's just get right into it. What was good in this game? Because, I talked about a lot of negatives in that first part. I mean, we got to give the good to William Nylander's goal. Yes, I understand you would have liked to have seen that much earlier in the game and with a little more urgency from this team earlier in the game. But I mean, he outmuscles Rasmus Dahlin like with ease almost, like to go solo effort and I didn't even think he had a good angle on that shot on Craig Anderson. I don't know how Nylander got that shot in. And Craig Anderson was actually quite good in this game for the Sabres. He always plays well against the Leafs. You think back to that game in Buffalo where the Leafs, were dominant against Sabres. It wasn't Craig Anderson to start that game. Let's not forget. He came in relief and kind of gave the Sabres a little bit of life when they were trying to make that comeback. So Craig Anderson always loves playing against the Leafs. The Leafs haven't exactly been good at playing against Craig Anderson. So I thought that was a nice goal from Nylander. And I thought Austin Matthews actually didn't have a bad game himself. He You could see when the Leafs were trailing, he was trying to push things forward. Unfortunately, he was really the only one. There wasn't really anybody else trying to get things going there for Matthews. Yeah, so I did think that Austin Matthews did play. I liked his play in this game. He did score. He's one of the few guys that can actually score on Craig Anderson. I read somewhere it's like 14 goals in his last 17 games on Craig Anderson. So Austin Matthews can. I thought he actually played quite well just from what I saw in this game. All right, let's move on to the bad. The bad in this game. There's quite a lot you can kind of look at here. I already talked a lot about the defense in the first segment there, and I thought the defensive zone coverage was not very good. The Leafs got outworked quite a bit in this game. I'm going to say also the penalties they took in the second period that kind of gave the Sabres momentum, gave them power play time, establishing zone time. That's really where it started to go wrong for the Leafs, is once the Sabres got that penalty, They made it, and then eventually 2-1, and then things started to balloon from there. So the Leafs have to work on their awareness in those situations, not to take some of those dumb penalties that they took. There was like a Nylander high stick in the third period that I didn't like. Like those are just dumb, careless ones. Yeah, there were some chintzy calls, but at the same time, there was a lot of just ones I saw and I knew they were going to be penalties as soon as I saw them. Those types, like the refs are not going. Like I don't want to. I don't think anybody was complaining about the refs. I didn't really hear. I know that some were complaining about. I think Brody got like a cross check from behind that, like, things like that. Yeah, those are just dumb plays. You want the refs to call them, but I I just felt like just a little more awareness that when you have a lead, teams are going to start playing a little more desperate, and they're going to get calls if you're caught flat-footed or if you're not going to be playing with that urgency. If you're not going to match that level of urgency. So yeah, definitely not a good moment there for Leafs to just let the Sabres get back into that game. You were up 2-0. 2-0, you're up. And that, yeah, 2-0 is not a lead that's insurmountable by any means, but a 2-0 lead shouldn't lead to you giving up four unanswered goals either. So just not a good moment there for the Leafs in that regard. Now, my ugly of this game. There's one play that sticks out above the most, and I thought this play right here would have been a game changer if it had gone in. This would have changed everything. I'm going to pull up the tweet right now. And those of you listening and that are not watching on YouTube, I am talking about the John Tavares, Michael Bunting 2-0 that led to nothing. Absolutely nothing. You have a 2-0 and it led to nothing. Now, the couple of things, and those I do have the video up on YouTube for those who are watching. Those who aren't watching, I had a great view of this from where I was sitting. There were two issues I had with this play. One was John Tavares. I thought he was going to shoot it. I didn't think he was going to pass that play because what he did is he came towards Anderson in the middle there, and he gave Anderson a good angle on that play. And what I thought John Tavares should have done was go out wide and force Craig Anderson to make a decision one way or the other. Do I stay with Tavares or do I play the pass a little bit to Michael Bunting? But because Tavares and Bunting were so close together on that pass, Anderson didn't have to come across so far to make the save. As you're watching here, like I understand 2-0, he got a little excited. I think what happened there, and honestly, and you watch it a few times again, I don't think Tavares realized. He probably thought he was going in on a breakaway, and then Bunting caught up with him, and he saw the 2-0 opportunity, and he thought, okay, maybe Bunting has a better angle to score here. Um, I also thought Michael Bunting didn't have his best game either. There was a play also in the game where he went in on a break, and instead of shooting it, he passed it, and it led to nothing. Like things like that, you got to take those opportunities and be a little more selfish. Be a little more selfish, and I feel like a play like the one on the 2-0, that's one that when the game ends 4-3, that's a play you look at there and you say that could have been a difference in this game. So yeah, not the greatest moment there for Leafs, in my opinion. I thought, you know, that play alone right there could have been a defining moment to try to get them back into the game. But obviously, when you allow 4 goals and you're down 4-2 late in the period, that's a very tough deficit to overcome. Sabres, I'll give them again. Sabres credit. They didn't give the Leafs a lot when especially when they were trying to push for the equalizer with the empty net. Sabres had a great no, when it's a 6-on-5, yes, the Leafs had the extra man, but the Sabres were able to put 5 guys low and keep the Leafs from, getting into those high danger scoring areas. That's what you do. They had really good net front protection. Obviously, then Nylander gets that goal. It was on a little more of a broken play. The Nylander goal wasn't. The Sabres weren't really set in the defensive zone, but that's kind of what I felt was the difference there in this game. All right, we're gonna put a bow on all this. We're gonna take one more break. And we're just gonna dissect this loss a little bit. We're gonna hear about what the players had to say and what I know sometimes it's tough to hear what the players had to say, but I wanted to get some comments from the players on what they thought on this game, including Sheldon Keefe. So we're gonna take one more break here. This is the Locked On Leafs podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Also, today's show is brought to you by Built Bar. If you're looking for a delicious treat but don't want all the fat and calories, then you got to try Built Bar. We just got through the holidays, and I know my goal is to eat a little bit healthier. And if you're like me and you want to eat healthy but don't want to compromise on taste, then you got to just try the thing that is best for you, and that is a Built Bar. It is healthy while also tasting great as well. Seriously, I don't know how they actually do it, but it's perfect for those who want to keep with their New Year's resolutions. And what makes them so good for you is that they are covered in 100% real chocolate. They come in unbelievable flavors like churro, peanut butter, coconut, peanut butter brownie, cookies and cream is one I like. Cookie dough. There are so many different flavors. There's a lot of variety if you're very particular in the types of protein bars you like to taste. And they maintain amazing macros. They that's what makes them taste good, but also staying healthy. They're 130 calories, 4 grams of sugar, and a whopping 17 grams of protein per bar. That's amazing to have 17 grams of protein in a protein bar like that while also tasting very good. And you can go and get them at your local Walmart or Sam's Club if you live in the States. That's it. Go to the Walmart, go to the pharmacy section, and grab yourself a 4-bar box of cookies and cream, double chocolate, or coconut puffs. If you're at Sam's Club, go and get a 13-bar box with hit flavors like brownie, batter, and churro. You can thank me later. And if you want to go online and order them, make sure you go to built.com. Use the promo code LOCKEDON15 and you'll get 15% off your order. That is promo code LOCKEDON15 to get 15% off your order at built.com. All right, welcome back to the Locked On Leafs podcast. It's your team every day, and let's finish off this podcast by just listening to not listening, but hearing of what the players had to say about this game. And I'm just going to pull up Mark Masters' Twitter feed here because that makes it a lot easier for me to read it out to everybody and for all those who didn't get a chance to see it, just to hear what the Leafs players had to say after this game. So let's start with Matt Murray. And I'm going to start with Matt Murray, and it's a two-part here. I'm glad that Mark kind of threaded his tweet here. So Matt Murray on how he felt after the game, even though he gave up 4 goals. I felt pretty good, especially through 2 periods. I think that third period, they got a couple good looks and capitalized on them. I just got to make an extra save there, but I felt pretty good for the most part. Sheldon Keefe was then asked how he felt about Matt Murray in the 3 games since returning from injury. Now, just to add, Matt Murray has allowed 4 or more goals in all the games that he has come back. So you would think, maybe Matt Murray needs to play a little bit better. Sheldon Keefe didn't actually agree with that sentiment. He said he has been great. I know the numbers look terrible, obviously. Again, here tonight, I thought he was really good. There were 4 tap-ins. You can't give up those types of looks. And that's where I agree with Sheldon Keefe. I didn't think Matt Murray was bad in this game. Every goal that the Sabres scored, as I showed in that heat map in the first segment, all came within a couple of feet of him. The reaction to you're not giving your goalie much of a chance in those scenarios where you're being beat by guys in front of the net. If you're leaving guys wide open in the slot, as they did on the Alex Tuck goal. So, yeah, I thought Sheldon Keefe was pretty fair on his assessment. Mitch Marner on the message/feel in the intermission after the Leafs were outshot 17-3 in the second period. Just knowing we got to be a lot better, and we need to be a lot better. We expect ourselves to be a lot better team than that. And not the greatest comment there from Mitch. Yes, you have to be better. You don't need somebody to tell you that. You should already know that in your mind. Kelly Yarncroke, second and third, we didn't get up to our level at all. Why do you think that happened? I don't know. I have no idea. I don't like that comment too much from Callie. Maybe just in the moment, you don't have a chance to dissect things, but it was because the Sabres played with urgency and the Leafs really just didn't. I think that's Callie didn't want to say that, but I think that's what he meant. We stopped working out there. It's tough to win if you're not working. Yeah, it's pretty standard stuff there, Callie Yarncroke. It's things like that where I'm a little befuddled. I don't know how the Leafs just the Leafs just need to find a way in those moments to dig. Even if you're struggling a little bit, just find ways to stop the bleeding. That's what they needed to do. They needed to stop the bleeding. Just like when the Leafs were down against the Oilers 3-1, they turned the game around and the Oilers couldn't stop the Leafs in those moments. And that's where the Leafs need to work better on. When the other team is going to do it to you, in the playoffs, a team's down 2-0 in a playoff game. They're not just going to sit back and say, you know what, we'll just go to the next game. That's not going to be possible if they're down in a series and they're going to be putting themselves in a stranglehold. They're going to do whatever they can to get back in the game. And the Leafs have to do better in those moments, to not let their opponent get any momentum to try to come back in the game. Now, Luke Shen was not in this game. That's unfortunate. I thought I'd be in the building for Luke Shen's first game back in Toronto. It didn't happen. So he should be back Wednesday against the Colorado Avalanche. We'll find out. I don't know if the Leafs are practicing. As I'm recording this is the day, obviously the morning after the game. So I'm not sure if the Leafs are practicing or they're just going to have the day off. So we'll know a little bit more about whether Shen is playing. If you keep an eye on Wednesday morning skate, I will actually be joined on the next episode from a good friend of the show, Nick Alberga. He will be joining me, and we'll preview the game against the Colorado Avalanche. I'll ask him a little bit more about the 11-7 deployment that Sheldon Keefe has been using far more often than I would expect and kind of hope. So I'm going to get Nick's thoughts on that, his thoughts on Leafs, and just a couple more things, as the, end stretch of the season comes along. So make sure you guys tune in to that episode there, and that will come out on Wednesday morning. So I'd like to thank you all for listening and supporting the show. You can subscribe to Locked On Leafs wherever you get your podcast from. We receive daily Leafs content. Again, Monday to Friday, we're going to be bringing you shows. So make sure you continue to come back and get more of that content. Make sure you follow myself on Twitter at @_Morassutti. That's 2 S's, 2 T's for those all listening on audio. And you can follow the show at Locked On Leafs. We'll be back with another episode, as I said, on Wednesday, where I'll be joined by Nick Alberga. So until then, keep it locked right here on Locked On Leafs.